Hi, I'm Ron. I'm with Mission Boards, and today I just want to show you a little bit of what we do to finish our cutting boards. So after we've made them, machined them, sanded them, then we dip them in a bath of mineral oil. And up until now, we've just used these plastic totes, and this one has some mineral oil in it, so we dip the boards in that mineral oil bath, and then after they soak for a while, we let them drip off here on this drying rack. And what I want to do is to improve our ability to do this. So in the last few days, I've been working on making a new dipping station, and it's simply constructed of 2x4s with some plywood on the bottom. And I'm going to put some casters on it so we can move it around the shop. And it's all sized to hold these bigger trays. These are basically under the bed storage trays that you can get at Lowe's. I believe I got these at Lowe's, and they're somewhere around 20 inches wide by 40 inches long and maybe 5 inches deep. So I built this rack where we can put 2 dip trays on the bottom, and that's where we'll dip the boards and leave them set in there for a bit of time, and then we'll pull them up to the top shelf, and I'm going to build a rack today that will allow these boards to drip off here so that we can collect the mineral oil in this top and then eventually drain it back down into the bottom. So that's our mission for today, and I'll show you what we do to go about making that happen. So what I've done is I've looked through my wood pile. I've sourced a couple of pieces of white oak. These are about 1.5 inches thick and about 2 inches wide. Just some scrap boards that I have laying around, so I'm going to run them through the planer, thickness them a little bit, and then we'll joint them and thickness them in the other direction. So let me get the dust collector turned on, the machine's running, and we'll get to work here. So at this point, we've planed both sides of the boards, and now I'm going to run them through the joiner and try to get them surfaced on 4 sides. So I want to make this drying rack that's going to sit on top of this stand. I want to make it to fit inside this indentation on the end so that it doesn't move around. So it looks to me like it needs to be about 15, we'll make it 15 1/8 inches wide, and we'll make it a total of about 49 inches long. When I do that, I should be able to make it so that it sits down in here, doesn't easily pop out, and yet is removable. I need to be able to take it off so I can take this tub out to clean it every once in a while. So what I've done here is to just lay out some lines on my pieces of white oak, and I have a line here where I'm going to cut this potential snipe off the end. And I have another line down here at 49 inches, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that on the miter saw. So I'm going to go ahead and glue up these pieces. I'm going to use my old handy and trusty pipe clamps. And the way I like to do the pipe clamps is to just use a little bit of blue painter's tape. Help keep the glue off the clamps. It's easier to keep the clamps clean that way, keep them functioning properly. I have my old trusty paint roller. I use Titebond 3. I'll just keep it in this paint roller tray, and it never really dries up, and I can just keep reusing it. Just use a basic paint roller to do this. So I bought some 1/2-inch CPVC pipe to use as the dividers, and I'm going to cut that now. I'll show you what that looks like. What I'm going to do now is to drill the holes that will accept this CPVC 1/2-inch plastic pipe. And as you can see, I've marked out on the white oak pieces lines every 2 1/4 inches. So starting with the center, going both directions, 2 1/4 inches. And I'm going to take these over to the drill press here once I get it set up. And I'm going to use the drill press to bore a 5/8 inch hole that will accept the CPVC pipe. So a couple days ago, I glued up these little white oak strips that I'm going to use to fasten the drip tray onto the top of the stand. And what I want to do now is just scrape these off and go ahead and get them jointed and planed so they're smooth. Now what I'll do is just to run these through the joiner quick, get one side flattened and then put them back through the planer. So I want the top edges of the drip rack here that I'm working on. I want these to be rounded over a little bit so the edges aren't sharp before I install the PVC pipe. So that's what I'm going to do now, just use a router with a 1/4 inch round over bit and round over the edges of these. So now I have these nice and smooth. Nothing's going to get caught when we slide the product in there that needs to drip off. So the next step is to take these white oak strips and install these 1/2 inch CPVC pieces of pipe. And I'll just tap them in with a plastic mallet. They're going to get down in there about 3/4 of an inch. I've used a 5/8 Forstner bit, which fits perfectly for the outside diameter of 1/2 inch CPVC. So those are completed. If you're paying attention, you probably noticed that There's one section, one piece of pipe right here, where somehow this hole got bored at a funny angle, and I have no idea how that happened, but part of being a good woodworker is knowing how to fix problems when they occur. So I must have got the board twisted when I drilled that hole, but for some reason that hole is angled a little bit different than the other ones. So I think I'm going to try to take some heat and see if I can just bend this particular piece of pipe back and make it look straight, even though the hole's bored at a little bit of an angle. Still not successful. So the propane torch didn't work out as well as I hoped. It actually burnt the pipe before I could get it done. I'm going to try at this point using a hot air gun and see if the heat gun does any better at just softening up the end of this. I think that's going to do the trick. I got a slight bend on it, then I go just a hair more. Well, they all look pretty straight, pretty much in line. I think that worked out well. Lesson learned, don't use the propane. So what I'm going to do now is try to assemble this. I'm just going to put a couple layout lines here. It's going to represent the outside of where the drip racks are going to go together. So that'll give me a good reference point to know where to actually attach these. Some construction screws to hold this all together, pre-drill it